Am I coming to you loud and clear? Is there any problem with the audio? No. Okay. So maybe we can start. I'm just gonna share my screen. Okay, do you guys see my screen? Yeah. So this presentation will be about teaching content in young learners classroom. I organized it in a way that it's kind of a workshop for everybody. So if we have time later at the presentation, we can make groups maybe and try to plan a lesson, and hopefully we could do that. So my name is Elie. My full name is Eliseo Vargas Jr. I'm I'm the head of English at Hinode Gakuen Elementary School. I got my MA in TESOL from Sophia University just this year. And before we start our presentation, I'd like to ask you one question. If you are free to choose the topics in your classroom, in your language classroom, what topics or contents do you want to learn, or do you want your students to learn? You can put them on the chat. Any topics would be fine. What are you interested in, and what do you think is interesting for your students that you could learn in your classroom? Please put them on the chat, or if you want to unmute yourselves, you can do that as well. Yeah, Gina wants to do science or art. Try and this is for young learners, so elementary school age, maybe grades 1 to 6. Science seems to be a very popular topic. Yeah, teaching alphabet. Everyday verbs. Nature-based themes, yeah. Especially if you're in the country, that's really interesting because they already have the background knowledge, right? They know mountains, and you don't need flashcards really, because they see it every day. You can just them out to the window. Yeah, that's a mountain right there. It's interesting. I like that. Critical thinking, culture. Yeah, culture is really interesting. Local jobs. Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Oh, conflict management, peace education. Sounds like a little serious for elementary school students, but also interesting because there's a lot of things going on around us these days. Gender equality. Okay, thank you very much. If you have any questions, something pop up to your mind any time of the presentation, please put them on the chat. I can read them, or you can stop me. We can also do that. I'm very much willing to entertain your questions any time of the talk. Okay, so let me continue. The title is about teaching content in the young learners classroom, but really this is about CLIL, or content and language integrated learning. So just to give you a little background about CLIL, it's an approach in teaching English that is very popular in Europe since the 90s. Now it's being applied in Japan in elementary school, junior high school, especially in the university. In at Sophia, where I finished my grad school, they're doing it in the university level, and they're actually the pioneer in CLIL in Japan. And it's integrated learning because the students learn both content and language at the same time. So they're using the language to learn the content, learn other subjects content in the English class. And of course in Japan it's English, right? So they're using English to learn a non-language content like science, art, math, physical education, music, or even about SDG topics and home economics as well. There's a lot of framework in CLIL, but I like this one by Gabillon in 2020, and they say that there are 4 C's in the framework. The content gives us the topic that we will be talking about that will improve their cognition, their thinking skills, their mathematical skills, and critical thinking, and um, um, all those thinking that they will do, because they don't just learn about the language, they also try to understand the topic, and also that will be the basis for their communication. They have the chance to communicate, to use the language, because they have something to talk about. And it's circled, and it's surrounded by the culture, their culture, the international culture. So they're learning about the culture of other people and how to understand it, why it's different from their own culture, and thus improving their intercultural understanding. And they said that it's also based on the context, the learning context where the students are, what country, what language is used in everyday life, how is English being used in that country, what's their age, okay, their English level. And I think this is very important, especially in Japan. English is not a second language, it's a foreign language. So even if we want to introduce content to our students, we also have to keep in mind that they are not really proficient English speakers, and we have to do some scaffolding. We need to help them, to give them the support that they need to become confident in learning and speaking about the content. And why do we have to teach the content to our young learners? What's in it? What's in it for us, right? What do we get? So we will get learners who are more engaged. They are more engaged in the classes because they try to think, they try to understand the topic, and they try to transform those information that they get to a different kind of product, like graphic organizers or presentations or posters. They are more active thinkers because they use graphic organizers. They use also critical thinking skills that so that they can understand the topic, and they have more opportunities to communicate in the classroom. We can do a lot of pair work, group work. They can use English to ask about their friends' opinion, and they can also make something out of it, like presentations or posters, and they will have improved intercultural understanding. So that's what Yamano found out in her thesis just a few years back, and it's now a chapter in a book. Okay. And this study was actually done in Japan in elementary school in an elementary school in Japan. So the context is there. It's we can say that CLIL is also effective with young learners in Japan. So how do we introduce the content? Okay, when we introduce, we can use a lot of different ways, like we can awaken our students' imagination. This is me trying to be a fake scientist, a quack scientist right here. I'm holding two beakers of colored watercolored actually watercolor, and I asked my students what color can I get when I mix them both, so I could activate their background knowledge on colors. This is, by the way, a fifth grade class. So the goal actually here is to introduce the word scientist, but my students also could review and refresh their knowledge about colors. And it's really easy. It was easier for me to introduce the word scientist because they see me trying to role play it, and here they're raising their hands. They're very engaged because I asked them, "What color do you think will I get if I mix both of these?" So when we introduce, we tap on their background knowledge, and we try to be creative. And when we introduce vocabulary words, there's the magic number 7 plus minus 2 words, so the students won't be overwhelmed. It's also the same with how we introduce the words right now in other approaches, right? Just or 9 words, about 9 words each time, so the students won't get overwhelmed. And when we teach grammar, we should connect it to the content. Okay, like here the content is about jobs. So there's the present tense. What does your father do? And we organize them by tenses and uses. So we don't start with the passive voice, but we start with the simpler ones like ing, present continuous, and then we go with present tense because that's easier for the students to recall and to acquire. And we use previously learned patterns like pronouns. Like if they have already learned about he or she in the previous lessons, when we talk about jobs, we can ask them what does he do, or where does your father work, and they can use he or she works in a restaurant, so they don't lose whatever they learned in the previous lessons. And we still do repetition, but it should be in context, right? We don't just make them repeat after me. We ask them questions, they try to answer, or they try to ask their classmates, their friends. That way they can repeat, and they repeat it in context, so they can remember more. And please don't be afraid to use the student's L1. A lot of teachers say you shouldn't use L1 in the classroom, but L1 is a resource. You can use it to explain more difficult patterns so the students will understand more. You can use it to tell them the instructions of the games, or what they have to do, so when they understand that the activity, they know how to do it, and they will be more effective. They can go right to doing the activity. Okay. And one principle of CLIL is using graphic organizers or using cognition. So they have to think, they have to transform whatever information they got from the text, or from the material that you give them. For example, this one we were learning about food. No, sorry, about physical fitness. Okay, so the words are watching TV, um, watch TV, eat potato chips, get rest, and get some exercise. And the grammar point is using enough, too many, and too much. So that this is Loyola Note, the the program that we use in our school. So the students can move the pictures. So the original the pictures are on the side, but the students can move them in the Venn diagram, like whether it's enough, they can use enough if it's good for your body. Like I get enough exercise, I eat too much junk food, I eat, I drink too much soda. So they just move the pictures. That's one way to use graphic organizers. This is another way as well. It's a map, a world map with all the bears on the side. We learned about bears in one of my sixth grade classes. I showed them a video from National Geographic Channel about bears in the world, and they moved the bears to the continents where they live. So if you could, we could listen to the video right now, you could notice it's natural speed, natural. It's it's too fast and too difficult for usual elementary school students.
In a sleepy forest, twigs snap underfoot. A wanderer stirs in the brush, moving closer and closer. With
Okay, so you see, it's really authentic. So in teaching students content, we can use authentic materials such as videos like this, and the end product here is they can move the pictures to the continents, and so they learned about bears, the kind of bears where they live. So that's the continent names right there: South Africa, South America, North America. It's a little difficult for sixth graders, but you know, when you scaffold them, you try to make them repeat the names, and they do it in groups instead of doing it individually. So you can save time, and they can help each other. They can look at each other's iPads and try to ask which one is the sun bear, which one is the polar bear. Yeah. So I have a question for you. This is pretty simple. What other graphic organizers do you think is useful in teaching students content that they can use to transform information? So I mentioned about Venn diagram. This one is a map. There are also timelines. A lot of graphic organizers are out there. So you can unmute yourself, or you can put them on the chat box. What graphic organizers do you think are useful?
Drawing pictures, just pieces of paper and a pencil.
Yeah, that's true.
Quite expensive to have to equip all the students with an iPad. Do you recommend any software on an iPad?
Um, I I don't make them draw pictures on iPad, but I mean, I use Loyola Note because our school is subscribed to Loyola Note. I think there's a free version of it, LOILO. low note. I'm sorry about the video. I assume everybody couldn't hear it.
I think we heard about the first 5 seconds or something. It's all right.
Yeah, but it's
We got
about
the
bears.
American woman was speaking very fast, so we got the idea.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and okay. How about the others? What do you think are useful graphic organizers or useful tools on iPad that we can use? Lilo Note, by the way, there's an option that you can use a pen, so they draw. My students actually draw pictures on cards. Mind map, yeah, mind map is very helpful because if there's a topic, they can put it in the middle, and they can use the surrounding circles to talk about it, to describe it. Okay, story maps, yes, yeah. I use mind map to introduce to make my students prepare for a culture, a presentation about culture, about their culture. So like, for example, they will talk about fireworks or hanabi in Japan. So what's hanabi like? They can put it on in the surrounding circles. Infographic, yes. Okay, thank you. So if I could continue, um, this one I did with my sixth graders. We read about bear, sleep bear. This is from National Geographic, and it's connected to the lesson about bears that I showed you. So reading is very important. A lot of elementary school students can't read yet, but if you make them repeat after you, they look at the words, and they repeat, and they try to read to their classmates. Eventually they will remember the words. And when you introduce reading to your students, make sure it's simple. The words are simple, the sentences are short, so they don't get overwhelmed, and the words are actually familiar words to them. So when they try to sound it out, they know the meaning already. If not, you can scaffold by telling them the meaning in Japanese, or showing them flashcards like this is what it means. So it makes it easier for them. And reading is one of the most difficult skills to learn in a foreign language, right? Okay. And one of the things that you have to decide when you're teaching content is whether content comes first or language comes first. And there are two kinds of CLIL. There's soft CLIL, which emphasizes language learning. Like, you give a lot of scaffolding, you use a lot of L1 to make them um, study or learn the topic more. But there's also hard CLIL, like the immersion classes, the international schools. So they use a lot more English than the soft CLIL classes, less scaffolding. Your goal is for them to understand the topic. But in Japan, it's mostly soft CLIL. Then whether you're more inclined to make them fluent than accurate. In elementary school, I'd like my students to become more fluent than more accurate, because they will learn a lot more grammar in junior high school, right? But making them more fluent in elementary school can make them more confident, and they can use whatever they have acquired in elementary school in learning more seriously in junior high school. Okay. And how do we assess our students? So this is one of the things in the portfolio. This is a poster for fifth graders. So I made them make a poster of the dream job that they have, and they could use sentences like, I want to be a pianist. To play. I like to nani nani. I like nani nani. Like on the left side, she wants to be a pianist, right? And also you could harness students' creativity here because they try to design their poster by choosing a lot of pictures and putting them together. And here on the right side, there's someone who wants to be a baseball player, and you can see the English is not perfect. Okay, there's a lot of things that we can correct, but that's fine because our my goal personally is to make them more fluent and becoming more accurate. Although if possible, I always correct my students, especially when making posters. I make them write on the notebook first, so I can check and tell them, okay, this is how it should be, and then they make a poster on iPad. Okay, and and you can see here there's a new vocabulary word because it's not originally included in the words that they learned in that unit. So they could learn additional words by themselves, like pianist. And there's also an opportunity to use previously learned patterns. This one, my favorite, nani nani, they learned it in fourth grade, so they could use it again in the fifth grade. And this is another type of assessment or poster that I made my sixth graders use. We learned about good habits. So they made a poster about their good habits or the habits that they think is beneficial or positive for them, like staying clean, like brushing their teeth, sleeping at 10 o'clock every day, eating lots of vegetables. So we could harness their creativity because this is a very beautiful poster for a sixth grader, right? And we could reinforce their learning of language because we're learning about too much, too many, and enough here. So once they use these words to make their posters, they can remember them more. Yeah. Okay, so I have asked this already. These are examples of our graphic organizers. Graphic organizers are very, very useful. If you could spend some time looking at them on the internet, please do so. Because you can use them anytime. You can put English words or Japanese words or drawings on those organizers so they can understand more the topic. Okay. So what other content can we teach our young learners? This oops, sorry. Okay. So this is another topic that I want to teach my young learners. I haven't done it yet. It's about cubs. Okay, this is from National Geographic readers. Okay, about cubs, and you see there's a lot of pictures there. When you introduce a topic, when you're teaching your students contents, please use a lot of beautiful pictures. They have to see the real pictures if possible, like what do tigers really look like, and if you could use videos, even if it's a little bit too difficult for them, scaffold it and use videos or pictures. Okay, I use these books with my fifth graders, so they learn about their culture. Because one of the problems of Japanese learners is how to introduce their culture in English because they find it difficult to do that. But I teach my fifth graders how to present their culture, so they learn about their culture in English. I give them two books each, so I have 35 sets of these books in our school. So I give them these books, and there's a lot of explanations with pictures about their culture, and they try to research using these books, and they try to put them together so they can make a presentation. and they do it in groups as well. Yeah. So, before we go to our little exercise, do you guys have any questions or you have any comments about teaching content in the young learners classroom? We can talk about it first. Yes.
Could you go back to that graphic organizers page?
Give me a second. Here.
Yeah, that's the one. Wow, I didn't know there were so many. Thank you. I just want to copy those down. Have you ever used a flower grid?
Flower. No. Uh, it's kind of similar to concept maps, but no, it's a Venn diagram maybe. Like I assume that the middle part is the similar parts, or it's the top, or it kind maybe it's related to concept maps. Maybe other people can tell us about it.
Where did you get that teach thoughts? Is that We Grow Teachers? Is that online?
Yeah, online.
A
I just got the
website?
picture online, so you can maybe take a screenshot of it and Google them later. There's a lot of graphic organizers out there. I am also in the middle of learning about them myself because they're very useful.
Thank you. You can continue. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure, please.
So flower grids can be used especially for learning a different language. You can have an image, you can have a definition, you can have a translation, and you can have like a flashcard made of these parts. So in the middle, it could be an image. On the left side, bottom left side, maybe the word in Japanese. On the left side, on the right side, bottom right side, translation. Maybe as an example of a sentence. So I think I've seen that flower grid being used like that.
Cool. So the topic or the main word or idea is in the middle.
I think it's up to the person who wants to create their own flashcards. Maybe the image, as you said, you want beautiful images, so it's pretty easy for the student to understand, oh, this is a cup, this is what it looks like. And then you have the information, or you can have the image in the background, depending on what you want to focus. I think so.
Yeah, Mary also wrote that we can use it for my hero or my favorite person, maybe my favorite person in the middle. Thank you. Yeah, very helpful. Yeah, I can see some collaboration right here. Thank you. So, are you guys ready for our little exercise? We can spend maybe 3 to 4 minutes with this. We can make small breakout rooms. So this is a classic right here. The Very Hungry Caterpillar. How can you turn this into a content lesson? What topic or what content can you think you can introduce to your students, and like what are the cognition part? What's the communication part? What are they gonna do? Okay. Do you understand the task? Maybe we can get into smaller groups and just very very briefly share about your ideas. Okay. So I'm gonna stop here, and looks like I can't make a breakout room. Okay, maybe we can do it right here. If you have any ideas, please put them on the chat box, or you can unmute yourselves. There can be
one of my former colleagues used exactly that book to make an art class. So I'm not sure about the content, but I remember it was used for art class. So they made fruits. They made he made the parts of the book first, right? The fruits, the caterpillar, and they had to copy him. But he was an art teacher too, so they were able to learn art and use art. But I think it can be used to learn vocabulary too, and it would be more hands-on. I was thinking a bit earlier about graphs. What I did at a different workplace was to create two sides of in a mirror like image of an animal, cat, giraffe, and then I had students sit 2 by 2 in pairs, and they had to talk to each other how they were going to color the animals. Each one of them had one half, and they had to color them exactly in the same way because they would have to glue them, right? So they would have to look the same. So it had a little bit of communication in there and motor skills or coloring and cutting and gluing as well. So I'm not sure if the focus is on content, but at least if you teach the animals or fruit, then they would spend a little bit more on them than just, oh, this is the flashcard with an apple, next. Maybe that helps. So that would be one way. Maybe the book could be used in an art lesson, but you would need an art teacher.
It's a great idea. Yeah, definitely. I will not be the one to teach that because I am not good at drawing. Yeah. Yazid talked mentioned about life cycle of a caterpillar or maybe a butterfly. That's one of the things that I was looking for. Like we can teach them science, right? It and the end product can not only be about butterflies or caterpillars. We can tell them, okay, what about the other animals? What's their life cycles? Okay, can you go research on them and draw the life cycles of the animal that you chose and maybe talk about them. Or I think there's a lot of mentioning about food as well in the Hungry Caterpillar, like cup cherry cake, cherry pie, and the fruits. So it can also be a topic, a lesson about fruits, right? That's one way also. And here, organized diet of a caterpillar, yes or no? Yeah, I did that with my second graders. Yeah, like the days of the week. What did he eat on Monday? What did he eat on Tuesday? Yeah, frog life cycles are
Oh,
fun.
we had another experiment. It was not an experiment. We had a praying mantis in a box that had holes in it, so praying mantis would have air, and had students to we had students finding grasshoppers and crickets. I know it sounds a little bit cruel, but they were having fun, looking for bugs, and they would feed a praying mantis. And sometimes they would just get a caterpillar, and the caterpillar would go into a chrysalis or a cocoon. It depends. We didn't have a butterfly. We actually had a moth. So it didn't turn out to be a pretty one. So they would actually see the real thing, I would say. And then we had a made up book with 4 rectangles in which they had to draw the stages, kind of like a cycle. But what I'm talking here is kindergarten level, so it could be adjusted for a higher level as well.
Yeah, you were really on point right there when you said they can see the real things. And when you're talking about content, you need to make it as realistic as possible so they see the real thing. If you can go out of the classroom, you can, visit some gardens in your school, in the yard. That's also great. If they can see the clouds on the rooftop or from the ground, that's also very interesting for the students. Okay, and if I can continue, okay, if you still have any ideas, you can put them on the chat. Okay.
Can I say something about a vocabulary?
Yes,
You went
please.
through vocabulary. Um, I really think one of the best strategies is space repetition. That means not only this month, but maybe next month or in 2 months, going back. It looks like a spiral, I think, but it's actually called space repetition. That way you don't just go through that vocabulary only once. I use that for practicing, for example, Japanese. So if I learn how to say a word, for example, mother or father, but I kind of like don't use it, then it's not gonna be there when I need it. So I know there is a software Anki that I like. I don't know if we can use it with kids, but with flashcards, I guess it would be possible. So from time to time to go to those flashcards and um, review them. And the next step would be to make sentences in order for them to use sentences naturally. So they wouldn't have to translate or think or just like, oh, um, this is a sentence. Then you could scaffold on colors, shapes, sizes, about the images, the images that are on the flashcard uh, as well. So a flashcard can be used in many, let's say, in a long run, I would say, not just for a lesson or two, but over longer period of time, if it makes sense what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. I mentioned about spaced repetition to my sixth graders too last
Oh,
2 years ago. Yeah, sixth graders they can start understanding these kind of learning practices. Yeah. So if if you are going to introduce content in your language classroom, please create opportunities for your students to learn the content outside the classroom as well. Make your school very rich in input, and they so they can see a lot of English outside the classroom, not just in the classroom. Like we have a notice board in my school and we maintain it every month. They can learn about different things there, like Easter or their culture, like Hanami. We have a lot of themes each month. Then I also put up an extensive reading library with my co-teachers. We started with just 50 titles. Now I organized it and put it into different levels, like 4 levels: beginner, basic, confident, and master levels. And we have about 300 titles already. And we give them a lot of opportunities to learn about different topics, not just the topics that I introduce in the classroom. They can learn about bugs, about Titanic, about Disney stories, and a lot of different stuff. So we try to give opportunities to everybody, and they can choose the books based on their level. We're not forcing them. You should read this one. No, they choose the book and they bring them home. And this picture on the top left is me on our Saturday English program, where I make videos with my co-teachers and my students. We teach them a lot of different topics. This one here, I taught them how to make halo halo. It's a dessert from the Philippines, like similar to kakigori, but so much more delicious, and a lot of different things like ice cream, beans, and bananas and fruits. So they learn about fruits, they learn about ice and how to put them together. And we also put some spaces in the video so they can respond to us when we ask questions, like, do you like bananas? So while they're watching us on TV, they can think, and oh, I he's asking about me if I like bananas. So they can say yes I do or no I don't. So if possible, please give them a lot of opportunities to to see the content outside the classroom. Okay, I would appreciate if you have questions about my topic or about my presentation. We will spend some time with this, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. That would mean a lot. You can put them on the chat, or you can unmute yourself. By the way, this is my LinkedIn um, profile link if you want to connect, and maybe if you're interested in learning how to introduce content in your classroom. It's not really that difficult. it's also embedded in the New Horizon or other next approved textbooks. They're already there. All you have to do is organize things and make them more interesting for your students.
For stories, I would like to say something.
Yep.
What I did with kindergarten, again, because I work in kindergartens, was to create a story with basic vocabulary, and they had to either I put some images in there and they had color, or they had to draw themselves. So for example, if it was something about introducing themselves and their family and siblings, they would have to draw themselves. And we even took the hand shape and feet shape. So it was like stars, like they do in Hollywood, I guess. They put it on the concrete, I guess, in the pavement, but they had to do it on the paper. So that was pretty unique for them, and they had to color, and they were more engaged, I would say, with the text.
Yes.
It's not as colorful as a printed text or printed story, but it forces them to use their imagination and creativity a little bit more. So
Yeah. Using Clill in the classroom makes them use their imagination more. And I didn't realize we have a lot of questions on the chat box, like what are the outcomes. So usually the products of the students will be posters, speeches, like presentations with pictures, of course. I use an app in our school, as I said, Lola Note. So it's like a PowerPoint presentation where they put pictures and words, and they flash it on TV while doing their speeches. And also, if you want to use graphic organizers like the life cycles, they can draw the life cycle and they can write some sentences there, right? And okay, how long or many lessons do you usually stay on one topic? I think 1 month is pretty good for a particular topic. Staying on it far too long would be very boring for students already, and for the teachers as well. So maybe 4 weeks for a topic plus your assessment. I have a warning about assessment. If you're going to make them make something, think about the time limit. Like how long do you want your students to work on this? Because if you make them do something really difficult, like make them use English that they have not learned yet, they might spend too much time on it, and you lose time for other topics as well. So if you could scaffold them and make them understand what the task really is about, like our goal really is for them to use the English that they have learned, right? So make them realize that what they have to use here are English sentences and words that they have learned from the previous lessons, and very few words or new words, so they don't have to spend too much time on one particular project. Okay. Any more questions or comments, maybe? I already got lots of new connections on LinkedIn. Thank you. For homework, what do you usually ask students to? So we use a different textbook in my classes. I am not allowed to maybe talk about it here because it's a free event. But what I did this year, because I just started to use it this year, it has an online practice. So I assign my students 2 activities each week, and then when they come back, we do the workbook, and when we're doing projects, if they can't finish in the time that I I gave them, I make it as homework. But you know, if you teach in private school, a lot of the students prepare, especially sixth graders, they prepare for the junior high school exam. Some of them go to after school programs, so it asking them to do homework can also be challenging. So they have to understand why they have to do it, what's in it for them, and make them feel that they really have to submit it the next time they come to your class. Okay. Johan, is this a question for me or for everyone? For me, yeah. How did you learn English? In the Philippines, we learn English. My time, actually, we learned English in kindergarten, but now it changed. I think they learn English from grade 3. So, um, when I was a child, it felt really weird to count in my own language because it's too long. So, and saying colors in my mother tongue is a bit weird for me because you know it's too long and too difficult. But now they try to build on that first before learning English. I read English since I was a child, so and in the Philippines it's the second language. Yeah. And
Yeah.
what's good about it is that I can share to my students like this is how I learned English. I know how you feel. I know how difficult it is because I also experienced it. So it's not just you that think it's difficult. Okay, if you don't have any more questions, we can end it right here. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming and spending the day with everybody else. It was so much fun to host this program for all of you, and I'm talking about CLIL at the end of the day. I hope to see you again next year for ETJ online event. Thank you very much.